Today I'm testing a macro lens that changes how iPhone macro feels. Because macro isn't just about getting closer, it's about seeing more. Texture, patterns, tiny details you'd normally walk past. This is the REEFLEX long-range macro 75mm, designed for the iPhone 17's main camera, and it's also a replacement for the older long-range macro 10x lens. Let's see what it can really do in the studio and out in the real world. I'll show you the specs, I'll show you exactly how I tested it, then we'll go through the results. I tested it first in the studio, using it on my jumping spiders and doing some water drop photography. Then I will head out into the real world to a butterfly farm for testing it on some butterflies. Then at the end I will give you the honest pros and cons and who I think this is really for. A quick note before we start: to use this lens you will need a REEFLEX case. The lens screws into the case and it is a solid fit. No wobble, no stressing about whether the lens is going to fall off or not. Here are the key specs for the long-range macro 75mm lens. As you've already guessed, it has a focal length of 75mm with a field of view of 50 degrees. The working distance is roughly 50 to 80mm, so you're not pressed right up against your subject, and that can be a big deal for macro. The full frame equivalent magnification of this lens is 0.58. So in full frame terms, you're getting the same macro look and field of view you'd expect from a close-up lens setup on a full frame camera. The optical design is a 4-element design in 3 groups. It's got a multi-layered coating from 475 to 656 nanometers. The filter thread mount is 17mm and the weight is 80 grams. So in real terms, it's small, it's light, and it's designed to live on your phone setup without turning it into a brick. Now specs are one thing, but with macro, the only thing that matters is the results. So here is how I tested it. I tested this new lens in 2 environments. The first was a controlled studio test with my jumping spiders and doing some water drop photography. The goal here is consistency, the same lighting, the same setup, so we can judge the detail and how easy it is to nail the focus. And then I took it out to a butterfly farm. That's the real world test. Unpredictable movement, changing light, different distances, and a subject that just won't wait for you. And while we're here, let's talk about the one thing that makes or breaks an iPhone macro lens, and that is focus. This lens is capable of great results, but nailing the focus can be tricky. And honestly, it's down more to the software than the lens. If you ever wished for better focus peaking or more reliable manual control, you'll know exactly what I mean. Let's look at the studio results first. First up, jumping spider portraits. As you know, I always test new lenses on my jumping spiders, and this is where I began the testing of this new lens from REEFLEX. This is where macro lenses either shine or fall apart, because spider portraits are unforgiving. You need detail in the eyes, you need texture in the hairs, and you need clean transitions from sharp to out of focus. The first thing I noticed is the look. You get a really pleasing separation, the subject pops and the background falls away nicely. And because you're not forced into the built-in macro mode, you're using the main camera, which can give you better overall image quality. Now, the key challenge: depth of field is thin, very thin. You'll think you've nailed it, then you zoom in and the focus is a millimeter behind the eyes. So my tip here is simple. Take more shots than you think you need. Micro adjust your distance and don't trust one shot. When you nail the focus, the detail is very satisfying. But never trust the focus peaking on the apps on the iPhone. Sometimes you can miss focus simply because you think you've got it and then focus peaking is saying that it's in focus when in fact it's not. So take more shots than you need. But these shots I'm perfectly happy with. Now let's talk about water droplets. This is a brilliant test because it's all about micro contrast, edges, clarity, and how clearly the lens draws fine detail. This is where I was generally impressed. The drop holds detail nicely and the distortion at the edges is minimal. That's one of the big wins here. Also, the build quality feels excellent. It's the kind of lens that feels like it belongs in a proper kit. So in the studio, this lens can absolutely deliver. But studio is the easy mode. Let's talk about what happened when I took this lens out for testing at the butterfly farm. Butterflies are a perfect stress test. They move, they flap, they change angle, and you're often working quickly before they take off. The working distance here is a major advantage. You're not right on top of them, so you're less likely to spook them, and you can compose more naturally. Now, focus. This is where the hard to nail focus note matters. When you're trying to hit focus on a butterfly's eye and it shifts slightly, you can miss easily. So again, the lens isn't the problem. It's the focus experience on the phone itself that causes this issue. As I said before, take more shots than you need. That said, when you do get the shot, the results look great. You can see crisp detail and the subject separation that makes macro feel cinematic rather than just close up. So overall, the real world performance is strong, as long as you accept you'll need practice and you'll need extra shots just to make sure you nail that focus. I also did some testing with video as well, and it holds up just as good with video. These sequences here have been shot on the iPhone using the iPhone standard app at 4K at 120 frames a second, and it works brilliantly. So it's also a good option if you want to do some macro videography on your iPhone. Right, so let's wrap this up properly with some pros and cons of the REEFLEX long range macro 75mm lens. So let's talk about the pros. The first one is your phone and lens are always on you. So the barrier to doing macro is basically gone. If you see a moment, you can capture it. Number two, it's better image quality than relying on the built-in macro function because you're using the main camera. I've never been satisfied with the macro mode on the iPhones. It feels like it's a cropped in image from the main camera. It just feels dirty, but using one of these lenses on the main camera will give you better quality. And number three, excellent build quality. It feels solid and the fit into the REEFLEX case is nice and secure. Number four, minimum distortion at the edges. That really shows in the water drop work and detailed scenes that I tested this on. Number five, it's small and lightweight at just 80 grams, so it's easy to keep in your kit. In fact, you don't even need to keep it in your kit. Just put it in your pocket along with your phone, and it's right there ready for you to take out and use if you do see something you want to photograph.